Hello? Hello, 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 hello. Is this thing... I can see you. Welcome to Shadow at Night, you guys. It's Tuesday, July the 2nd, 2024. We have a big show tonight. We don't have a guest tonight. And that's the way I wanted it. Because I just like those intimate evenings sometimes. And I do like to catch you up and myself up on all of the news that's been going on. And when there's a guest, let's be honest, it's more difficult to do that. I usually have to jam it all in the extension on the website afterwards, and that can take up to an hour and a half. I think last night I was on for an extra hour and 15 minutes on the extension for the All Access members on the website, shadowdavis.com. Tonight, it's just you, me, and the news, and your comments, my friends, your comments. I'm gonna remind myself I should come back to your comments a little bit more often just so we can get them out there. Lots of you make great points, but here's the thing. I notice, and because I read the comments, and I've got people trolling the comments too, right? Like, there's a team of people who troll the comments on every platform this show broadcasts on, looking for trolls and abusive behavior. And if you act that way, you will be warned a couple of times, nicely, and then that'll be it. And in the past couple of weeks, I've had to remove 3 people for... Somebody is calling me here. Oh, I know who this is. Give me 1 second. Hello, is that Chris? How you doing, Chris? Excellent. Tomorrow sounds great. That's fantastic. Thank you. I just signed on my show right now, so I'm talking to like 300 or 400 people. So I'll give you a call tomorrow if that's cool. Okay, man. Thank you. Yep. Bye-bye. All right, we've got a lawyer, not lawyer, on the show tomorrow night who came up with a tremendous win in a Canadian court case a couple of weeks ago. We'll tell you more about that tomorrow. But tonight, it's just us. Now, there's going to be guests on, 3 of them on Friday night, and I'll tell you more about that in just a second. But again, I was getting back to the comments, and yeah, we do have some people that we had to remove. Not any regular people, not any names I recognize, just some people who kind of seep in every now and again and poison the conversation, and they write in capitals only. They are trying to get your attention. They're trying to upset you. Don't let them do that. This is probably, and I've got outside people that come into the show every now and again. They call me a couple of days after they watch the show. They experience the whole thing, the community, the show, the conversation, and they say, wow, man, you're lucky. One of the best viewing communities that I have ever been a part of. So I would like to thank you guys for that. And even those of you that don't comment or comment rarely, I would like to thank you for being here. I really appreciate that you're here. I really appreciate that you've got your eyes open to what's going on, or maybe partially, or maybe they're just opening up now, and you're kind of going, oh man, oh no. And maybe I'm one of your rabbit holes. Awesome! We're going to get down to business in just a second. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, my friends, brought to you by Canada Nano Silver. CanadaNanoSilver.ca. The toothpaste, I haven't talked about this in a couple of weeks now. Why? Because Kev tells me it's one of their best-selling products, but it's one of my favorites as well because, you know, sometimes getting your kids or grandkids to brush their teeth is a monumental struggle, especially before bedtime. Just getting them to go to bed is tough. But you want them to look forward to it, right? And you say, you can brush your teeth before you go to bed. And they say, yeah, okay, whatever. But if you give them this bubbleberry toothpaste without fluoride, you don't have to tell them that. You know. They're going to want to go to bed. Toothpaste, multiple flavors, naturally whitening, helps keep your teeth clean with triple action nano silver. Silverceuticals made from only the highest quality ingredients. This unique toothpaste is kid safe, uses powerful natural ingredients. Triple action nano silver, the Silverceutical technology helps clean your teeth, promotes healthy teeth and gums. Then above ground, mined coral calcium helps to scrub and remineralize your teeth. 3 flavors, cinnamon. You don't often get cinnamon toothpaste. Cinnamon, spearmint, and bubbleberry for the kids. You can use it too if you want. It all works the same, but I would give it to the kids or the grandkids, the bubbleberry. It's the purple one on my right, your left. Only available at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Sorry, CanadaNanoSilver.ca. Why did I say .com just now? Of course, Canada. CanadaNanoSilver.ca. If you're looking for a retail location near you, find one on the Retail Locations tab in the upper right corner of the website. If you'd like to become a retailer of these awesome products, get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the Contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.ca. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.ca. Is Elon Musk going to the dark side? Elon always said, I've always kind of leaned to the left, politically speaking. But in the last few years, apparently I've become right-leaning. That's because the Overton window has shifted, right? And now all those lefties, all those hardcore lefties call themselves mainstream, and they call us actual liberal people, us common sense people, far right. They do it all the time. We're going to give you several examples of that as the show goes on tonight. Let's go say some hellos. Don't forget, at the bottom of the screen, it's telling you to like and share and retweet and get this out there. Please go ahead and do that. Hello, Brian. Greetings from a soggy Russo. It went by so fast. Rosso, Ontario. I apologize. I got that wrong. Yeah, off to a great start here. Hello, Willie. How you doing? Gerald is watching tonight from Wild Oaks RV Park in Richer, Manitoba. Hello, JJ in Calgary. Linda's watching tonight. What teacher got terminated? Who? Where? What? You guys are talking amongst yourselves. I don't even know what you're talking about. And somebody said Big Mike is replacing Joe Biden as the presidential nominee for the Democrats. I haven't read that yet. Did that just break, or is that just rumor, hearsay, conjecture? Let me know in the comments, please. Hello, Barb, watching tonight. Kathy is in Ottawa. Hello, Darlene, watching in Swan River. Paul is watching in Pudo Nation tonight. He's the guy who made the little Pudos a couple of years ago. I think he's still got a couple left. Luella is watching in Red Deer. Hello, Vicky in Nova Scotia. Debbie is watching in Oak Bank, Manitoba. Get it out there. Again, like and share if you're watching on Facebook. Get this out to as many people as you possibly can. Likewise, if you're watching on X. Ooh, X. Is X going bad like Twitter used to be, where they ban people for saying the wrong things? We're going to get to that story in just a second. Hello, Rumblers. Hello, Grandma Nose and Nana Sue and Arnie 7 and Daisy 67 and David and Wee Little Doe visiting Winnipeg from Niagara. Jimmy James is watching. Canadian Gypsy is watching. Esky Dogs. Deb Haw is watching in Foam Lake, Saskatchewan. Patricia, Spinaker, Maria. Yeah, all you guys, all the regulars on Rumble. Bentel, Patricia, Nutsy is watching tonight. I want to say a special belated birthday to my friend Bob. His birthday was over the weekend. That's a special birthday, right? Bob turned 75 this past weekend. Bob lives up in Russell, Manitoba. That's the home of Theo Fleury, of course. So happy birthday, Bob. I hope you had a fantastic few days over the Canada Day long weekend. And hello, Rachel, as well. You put on a fantastic party for your old man. You should be proud. Coming up on Friday night. Now, I told you guys I'm not doing Friday night shows through the summer, but I'm going to make an exception in this case because it's very difficult to get these folks together. The Harper family, originally from Sudbury, Ontario. I think Megan still lives there. Garnet Harper, you know his story, right? Garnet, fierce advocate of freedom, free speech, truth, all of that. He passed away a little over a year ago because of kidney complications. He couldn't get a kidney transplant. They wouldn't put him on the list, the doctors there. I think it was in London, Ontario, where people go for that kind of procedure, transplant procedure in Ontario. That's one of the places anyhow, if you live in Sudbury. They wouldn't give him a transplant. They wouldn't put him on the list because he was not vaccinated. And Garnet died with this kidney disease at the age of 35, May 22nd of last year. So in Beausejour, about a week and a half ago, his family came out, his two brothers, Gal and Devon, and his wife Megan came out, and they told Garnet's story. And they're going to join the show on Friday night to tell that story once again. So I'm making a special show on Friday night, and I certainly hope you guys can be here for that. The Harper family telling the story of Garnet Harper Friday night, right here on the Shadow at Night live stream. All right, let's get into it. What are the politics of Elon Musk? You can find this pretty much anywhere. I just grabbed the first thing that came up on the search. The politics of Elon Musk, according to India Today, first thing that came up. Right or left? People want to know if he's right or left. Well, actually, Elon fancies himself slightly left. At least he used to. But these days, he's slightly right. Not that right-left means anything anymore. I know that somebody is already saying that in the comments, and I totally get it. I believe the same thing. It's right versus wrong. It's God versus the devil here. But when we're talking about beliefs, where do your beliefs best fit in the political spectrum, which is kind of moving all the time, and it's moved very, very far left. The Overton window has these past couple of years. I would say I've always leaned a little bit to the right, but I was mostly a centrist. Anyhow, Elon says he now identifies as right-leaning, but he claims he used to be a person with left-of-center views. All right, that was in an article by the Associated Press, and every news agency across the world picked that up. Okay, so let's go to this story here. This actually sent shivers down my spine today because, I posted about this earlier on Facebook, because Facebook, Meta, Instagram, as we know, that's censorship platforms. These are censorship platforms, just like Google, YouTube, right? They censor you, they downrank you, they hide things from you in searches. That's what they do. They demonetize, they warn, they deplatform. And I've been getting warnings. This is my second YouTube channel we're broadcasting on tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. I always forget to mention you guys. I think there might be 4 people watching on my YouTube. But anyway, that's my second channel. It's already got 1 strike on it. I expect many more strikes in that channel to go down soon. I don't know why. They always say it's a violation of community standards. Likewise, on Facebook, I've had problems. Starting last year, about a year and a month ago, I got this suspension that I've never fully recovered from when it comes to censorship. And now I'm getting warnings again about things that I've said, but they won't tell me what. Or if they do tell me what, then I say, well, no, I'm going to appeal that. That's absolutely ridiculous. You get a response back within 15 minutes, sometimes less, and it tells you, I'm sorry, but we're sticking with our original decision. You're bad. Do it again, and we're going to deplatform you. So this is why I say, if you guys want to keep following this show, you watch on Facebook, you watch on YouTube, maybe you make yourself a reserve account on Rumble. Go follow me on Rumble. All the shows you like, if they're available on Rumble, go follow them on Rumble. And I also suggested X would be a good place to follow, but then, just about 10 minutes after I put that down, I saw this article. X rejoins the Pro-Censorship Advertisers Alliance. This story comes from reclaimthenet.org. This is terrible news. We know that Linda Yaccarino is the CEO of X, appointed by Elon Musk. Elon, obviously, is the chairman of the board. He's the big boss. But Linda makes these day-to-day decisions. And I'm wondering if Elon even knows about this yet. Certainly, there's enough people complaining about it on X as we speak, tagging him in those posts. So we'll see. Anyway, given how X has gone out of its way to reveal the depth and breadth of online censorship via the Twitter files, and you got to give him credit for that, this makes for an awkward reunion. The company has decided to rejoin the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, or GARM. It's a pro-censorship, World Economic Forum affiliated advertisers group that achieves its objectives through the brand safety route. That means the censorship brand, demonetization, and last summer it was scrutinized by the U.S. Congress. And this is the post put up by X Safety, their safety department. We're excited to announce that X has reinstated our relationship with the WFA Marketers Global Alliance for Responsible Media. As of today, X is included as a member of GARM. X is committed to the safety of our global town square and proud to be part of the GARM community. What does this mean? GARM is one of those outfits whose roots are very entangled, comes in handy when somebody tries to probe your activities, right? Right? I don't know who's responsible, that guy. No, her, no, him, no. Like that Spider-Man, all those Spider-Men in that meme all pointing at each other. And the chronology is not insignificant either. Formed in 2019 as a World Federation of Advertisers initiative, partnered with the Association of National Advertisers. This reminds me of the Trusted News Initiative, which is sickening in terms of censorship. Then came another partnership, that with the World Economic Forum. Specifically, it's Shaping the Future of Media, Entertainment, and Sport project, a flagship one, according to them. In May of last year, the U.S. House Judiciary Committee wanted to know what exactly was going on here and whether brand safety as a concept, as exercised by these entities, could be linked to censorship of online speech. So, the committee subpoenaed the World Federation of Advertisers and GARM, asking for records that might show whether these groups coordinated efforts to demonetize and censor disfavored speech online. Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, I love that guy. I mean, we need Canadian politicians like Jim Jordan. Anyway, was at the time concerned that this conduct might have run afoul of U.S. antitrust laws. For X, despite the strides the platform has made towards protecting user speech since the Twitter takeover, the GARM relationship is most likely simply about money, ad money, because Elon's taken a haircut since he bought X. All of those advertisers pulled out, remember, a couple of years ago, and that's when Elon, in front of all of those CEOs, especially Bob Iger of Disney, said, what did he say exactly? Can I remember what he said? It had the F word in it. It should have been on a t-shirt. It should have sold millions. Anyway, write it down in the comments. Just don't write the word down, the F word. Just write F and then all those stars, asterisks. We'll know what it means. Those who were hoping for a free speech absolutism on a platform like this might be disappointed. The Congress might investigate some more, but ultimately the move represents a real politics-style compromise. And so X is excited and proud to be back as a GARM member. The company's safety account posted something about the safety of our global town square, apparently being relevant to this decision, but did not elaborate. Now listed by GARM, along with X, are YouTube, Chanel, and in between some of the biggest pharma and telecoms out there. Big money, one might say, and they are all funded or supported by the big ones. State Street, Vanguard, and of course everybody's favorite, Larry Fink and BlackRock. It's very interesting. So what is this network anyway? It's the only global network for senior marketers where you can put in advertising restraints if you see fit, and we'll support you on that. Monetization Coach wrote this on X today, underneath that X safety post about being so proud to be members of GARN again. Monetization Coach said, if I advertise on X, will I need to comply with GARM's ad net zero carbon emissions guidelines? Elon, did you know about that? GARM and Ad Net Zero announced global framework to measure media's carbon emissions. The media is now responsible. Apparently radio waves, television waves, they are big, big, big emitters. What? No, they're not. Yes, they are. The global media sustainability framework is a cross-industry collaboration, blah, 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 blah. So we're gonna keep our eye on this. In the meantime, I went looking at Elon's latest tweets, and here's what I found. This came in yesterday, which was encouraging. That almost the entire media repeated, he's talking about the Biden-Trump debate from the other night. Almost the entire media repeated the same lie with the exact same words is disturbing, that Joe seems fine. And then they switched, right after the debate, they were crying, they were screaming. And then the very next day, they changed their minds and said it was just a glitch. Don't worry about it. It happens. It's a 90-minute debate. You know, he had a cold, all of that. The legacy news, Elon says, is not merely fake, but also unoriginally fake. If you want to know the truth, it's on X. That's what he says. If you want to know the truth, it's on X. And then he posted this video, the sharpest attack video, which it's funny. Which I will play for you right now. Let's watch.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
There's the media talking about Biden. Next day. Not right after the debate. They were still in shock. But did Biden not know they were on a split screen? Because they were like all night long, when one of them was talking, the other was still on screen most of the time. And this is how Biden looked when Trump was talking. Look at that.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
He's smart. He's on his game.
His mental acuity is great.
This is a very sharp president.
And the people that I've talked to say he's as sharp as a tack. He's fine.
They say he's sharp.
There's not a problem.
He was sharp. He was sharper than anyone I've seen to.
The president is tirelessly sharp.
As sharp as ever.
And he's also wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
His brain is good. He's still great.
He is sharp in meetings.
I believe the people who say that behind closed doors, Joe Biden remains sharp.
In meetings, Joe Biden is sharp.
He's sharp, he's fit.
There is nothing to these challenges, these suggestions that somehow he's sharp as a tack.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
Actually, Joe Biden is sharper and has more mental acuity than Donald Trump, because more people believe that actually Joe Biden's mental acuity is better than Donald Trump.
I mean, he's sharp as he's funny, he's sharp as a tack.
Kamala Harris says he is up to this task. He's, sharp as a tack, and he's smart. He's energetic. One of the themes this election cycle is that Joe Biden is too old to lead, and so everyone is seizing upon this, and it is a classic.
Okay, so in this scenario here, that's Dana Bash rooting for Biden. In this scenario here, Biden is on the right side of that split screen, knowing, because all of these debate participants are told where the cameras are, where to look at all times, right, when the other person is speaking. And in this particular situation, Biden must have been told that the camera is on your right. Look there, if you want to look into the eyes of the Americans that you purport to represent. Look there. Over there. But here he is going over here. Look at guys, I don't mean to demean somebody because he's old. That's not what I'm doing. I know it might seem like it, but it's not what I'm doing. Ageism? No. However, there are certain limitations to what we can do as we get older. I can't do some things I used to do when I was 25 or 30 years old or 40 years old even. Joe Biden is going to be 82 years old very soon. We've always known that his mental acuity was going down fast. Even before the last election, we saw it. He was in his basement all the time. He didn't even campaign in the last election. They said, well, it's COVID. Whatever. He sat in his basement. Who's making the decisions? Obama? Biden's wife? I don't know. World Economic Forum? What I'm upset about is the Democrat Party has been very disingenuous with the American people and by extension, the people of the world. I mean, let's be honest here. What America does affects us in Canada greatly. This is the guy with his finger on the nuclear switch, and he can't seem to put sentences together. Did he get better as the debate went on? Yes, he did. He did. But this is after a week of prepping for the debate at Camp David, and apparently all shot up with Adderall or whatever it is you give somebody in that condition. I don't know. But what I can tell you, because I have got experience with this myself, and maybe you do too, when my mother was near the end of her life, and I think this was induced by a bad drug cocktail that the doctors had her on, I don't know for sure. But she was a lot like that. Not all the time, but sometimes. And as time went on, it got worse and worse and worse. I'd walk into her room, I'd say, hey, Ma, what's going on? And she'd look and go, oh, hi. I'd say, what are you watching? And she's watching some comedy show from the 1970s, maybe The Partridge Family or something. So I'd sit down and say, hey, what'd you do the last couple of days? You go play bingo the other night? And at that point, she's zoned out just like that. And that would last for 10 minutes, and then she'd come back. But she was in the most comfortable place that we could have her in for her last years. Contrast that with this guy's family and all of his closest friends and associates trying to run him out there as a corpse to be the president of the United States, just a figurehead. He's not making any decisions anyway. We need Biden to be in there. But now they know he can't win, so they're going to try and get him out. My prediction is this, that Joe Biden, who's probably already dead anyway, and that's just a bad impersonator, is going to die between now and September, and the Democrats are going to have to rush to find a replacement. And it's not going to be Kamala Harris. Will it be Big Mike? Apparently he doesn't want it. Can't stand politics, he, they, she says. So who then? It's not going to be Kamala Harris. It could be, they say the two leading candidates are Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, and what's his name from California, Gavin Newsom. So we'll see. We'll see. But it's going to be a very, 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 and maybe Biden's death is going to be that black swan event that we've been talking about all year so far. Who knows? When a president dies while in office, that's a big deal, and bad things can happen around that because the country is then rudderless, like it hasn't been for the past 4 years. All right, staying with X, Dr. William Mackus, who I guess I'm going to have back on very soon. He's a good guy. I really like Dr. Mackus, and I really love what he stands for, and I certainly hope that he gets his cancer practice back at some point soon because he was saving people. He posts truth on X, and so far in this incarnation, he has yet to be banned. We'll see. New article that he writes on his Substack, by the way. Ivermectin, articles and protocols for cancer, research studies, and access to ivermectin pills. Recently, Dr. Mackus says, I've seen tremendous demand for some sort of initial guidance where to start with high-dose ivermectin for cancer. So I'm reposting my ivermectin cancer protocol. It's very simple to use. And again, this comes from a doctor. To all those AI algorithms who are listening and probing to what I'm saying right now, this comes from an educated man, a doctor of medicine. Can't even believe you have to say that these days. Did you know that ivermectin is annually taken by close to 250 million people? Ivermectin has a dozen anti-cancer mechanisms, but they can be summarized into two main ones. Number one, inhibits cancer proliferation signaling pathways AKT, mTOR, and WNT. And number two, inhibits cancer stem cells. Ivermectin will act against regular cancer as well as Pfizer and Moderna mRNA vaccine-induced turbo cancer, which is highly resistant to chemo, Dr. Mackus says. Here are some recent studies on ivermectin use in certain types of cancer. Bladder cancer, ivermectin inhibits bladder cancer cell growth and induces oxidative stress and DNA damage. Lung cancer, ivermectin induces non-protective autophagy by downregulating PAC1 and apoptosis in lung adrenocarcinoma cells. Glioma, ivermectin as a potential therapeutic strategy for glioma. Multiple myeloma, gene signatures to therapeutics. Basically, this takes care of a lot of different kinds of cancers. As you can see, ovarian, prostate, colon cancer, pancreatic, even if you catch it soon enough, melanoma. Ivermectin has proven anti-cancer activity against some 20 cancer types, although these are preclinical studies. We will never see clinical studies because ivermectin is off patent and cheap. These words again coming from Dr. William Mackus. Ivermectin is so safe that in much of the civilized world, it's available over the counter, no prescription needed. That's how it should be. I recently wrote about how a doctor in Saskatchewan was just given a $44,800 penalty by the College of Physicians and Surgeons for prescribing ivermectin to a few patients during 2020 through 2022. The Ontario College of Physicians even had an investigator go undercover and dress up as a Canadian trucker to ensnare a young doctor prescribing ivermectin in Ottawa in 2022 during the Freedom Convoy. Canadians must realize the colleges of physicians and surgeons are private corporations fully bought off by Big Pharma and run by mafia lawyers who are putting pressure on doctors to comply or else. No healthcare bureaucrat or lawyer has the right to deny anyone access to life-saving medication, and if they do, they are committing a very serious crime. It's time for Canadians to bring the colleges of physicians and surgeons to justice for their many COVID-19 crimes, take them over, dissolve them, start over. I now have a trusted, affordable source for ivermectin, so if you need access to ivermectin, please email me. And there is the link to the article on his Substack, Dr. William Mackus. Find him on Substack. Go, find him on Substack if you want ivermectin. You want to stash some in the cupboard, do it. It's good to have around. It is one of the safest drugs out there, according to medical professionals. I thought this story was one of the funnier stories that I've seen so far this week. I know it's only Tuesday, but let's go ahead and read this one. I don't even know why the RCMP would do a study like this, but they did. From TNC.news. Far right, quote unquote, see, there's that reference. Far right, women, you watching this right now, you far right bigot. Woman. Far-right women contributing to threats against democracy. I can't even believe the RCMP has got the nuts to put this on paper. But they did. This is an RCMP report. So it warns about citizens' movements threatening democracy. It takes note that women in particular, are being drawn to the far right, citing dubious statistics by anti-hate researchers. Anti-hate network, you know them. Bernie Farber, those guys. I can't even believe the RCMP is still going with this ridiculous data, but they are. The RCMP's recently published 2023 environmental scan. They're so woke, it's embarrassing. It highlights the supposed increase in radicalization driven by factors like socioeconomic instability, polarization, political distrust. Yeah, okay. That doesn't make us far right, but those conditions do exist. I'm not going to deny that. One of the chief social concerns threatening democracy is the rise of mass citizen movements, according to the RCMP. Society is fragmenting into smaller communities based on common interests and backgrounds, increasing social polarization, reads the report. Democracies around the world are under threat from large-scale movements and citizen protests. These push factors, exacerbated by the pandemic, are said to have created an environment conducive to the spread of far-right ideologies, particularly among women. Trends suggest that more women are gravitating towards far-right movements in Canada, wrote the RCMP. Hey, ladies, I'm asking you, are you writing down in the comments right now, Rumble or X or Facebook, shadowdavis.com? Are you far-right? Are you a radical extremist? Write it down. Tell me, yes, no? Are you proud to be part of the fringe minority? It's amazing. It's amazing. I can't, speak for women. They're singled out in this particular report. But, I've never thought of myself as fringe anything, really. Occasionally on the fringes, but not overall. And now I guess I'm a far-right extremist somehow. This happened. I'm still the same, man. But I guess the progressives, the far left, the Marxists, the neo-Marxists, they would call me a throwback, a knuckle dragger, a caveman. Like in that movie with Rocky Balboa there, Sylvester Stallone. What's it called? And Wesley Snipes? That one. Anyway. Author and University of Buckingham politics professor Eric Kaufman told True North the gross exaggeration of the threat level posed by the far right was what he termed the fascist scare in his latest book. He says, I think the threat level is, by any measure, terrorist incidents, hate crime convictions, negligible. More like a freak event like being killed in a lightning strike than a high threat like dying from a virus or automobile accident. Certainly less of a concern when divided by its demographic constituency than the threat from Islamism or foreign nationalist terrorism on Canadian soil. We do have a disturbing event kind of like that to tell you about in just a second. Instead, Kaufman said the real threat was the woke capture of institutions, which reduces trust in the system among the anti-woke majority of the public. Ladies, are you far right so far? Right so far. That's how far right I am. You can't say that, Brian. You're a dude. I'm looking for the ladies to respond to me here. Caroline wants ivermectin. Well, go find Dr. Mackus on Substack. He's got a one of those little hyperlink contact things. You can go and email him there, and he's got a line on it. He's your dealer. He's your pusher. This report from the RCMP cites Ontario Tech University researcher Barbara Perry's controversial claim that 300 far-right groups were operating in Canada. Since releasing her $366,985 taxpayer-funded study 4 years ago, Perry has never published the list of these alleged groups and has refused to release the research publicly. Maybe because it's all bullshit. Ontario Tech University has also attempted to block the study from public access in arguments filed to Ontario's Privacy Commissioner. The release of the records is currently up for adjudication. They don't want to give away their sources because they ain't got none. They made it up. This kind of exaggeration is typical in government reports about the far right. Instead of shadowy claims and anecdotal evidence often based on self-reports or self-interested anti-hate groups, I would instead rely on hate crime convictions, data trends, and divide these by the denominator, Kaufman told True North. For instance, Islamic attacks, let's just say, should be divided by the Muslim population or far-right attacks by the white population to compare relative threat levels. True North reached out to the RCMP to allow them to clarify this report, provide evidence to back up their claim. In this report, by the way, the RCMP goes on to cite the Freedom Convoy as an example of the so-called far-right mobilization that taps into this rising populist sentiment. The RCMP claims that unlike traditional extremist groups, the far right lacks a clear hierarchical structure. Earlier this year, I can't even believe that I am reading this to you like it's news. It's like some big elaborate joke and there should be a great punchline at the end. Earlier this year, the national policing body also released a hate crimes report that noted an unexpected shift. Hate groups in Canada are reportedly becoming more ethnically diverse. Ooh. Traditionally dominated by white males, these groups are now said to be recruiting from racialized communities. The RCMP defines a hate group as any organization or collection of individuals that attack or vilify people based on characteristics like race, religion, gender identity, blah, blah, blah. People who join these hate groups come from all socioeconomic backgrounds, professions, and perhaps surprisingly, they appear to be increasingly racially, ethnically diverse, the report reads, surprisingly. In recent years, some hate groups in the U.S. and Canada have actively recruited members from racialized groups in an attempt to soften their public image and bolster recruitment. So that's what they were saying when reporters were walking through the streets of Ottawa during the Freedom Convoy. And, you know, because of these reports from the left-wing corporate media that it was a bunch of white supremacists there, they went and talked to all the Muslim truck drivers and all the black and Asian Canadian truck drivers just to get some diversity in there. But I guess they've been radicalized, those people, by the white extremists like us. This is funny. This is one of the funniest things I've seen. And guess what? No punchline. I'm not really a big Norman Spectre fan, you guys. You know what? I'm going to come to the comments because like I told you at the beginning, I'm going to come to the comments. So let's see. Leanne is talking about the land use bylaws that are being enacted in different counties and municipalities across Ontario. This is what we had Maggie Hope Braun on last night talking about, and their success in Thorold, which I thought was great. So Leanne says, FYI, anyone in Ontario understand there are land grabs happening now. RVCA is working with the province to remap the wetlands. They are currently, this is the wetlands project. Yes, absolutely they are. They're currently pausing the remapping while they prepare to take our land from us. Also, this is the same thing as that UN land grab that Pierre Poilievre endorses, by the way. Under the guise of giving First Nations their land back, UNDRIP, you know that, right? The farmers are pushing back against them, but the province is working hard to make this happen. Anyone who's on here from Ontario, please reach out. So, Leanne, you've got the information. You guys, if you want to know more about these land grabs going on in Ontario, please get a hold of Leanne Beggs Leonard. She is here. She's commenting right now. She has some information. She would like to share it. This is awesome. This is teamwork, you guys. This is great. I'm happy I saw that post because these comments are flying by so quickly. Anyway, Norman Spectre, who's a guest editorialist occasionally in the Globe and Mail, talking about Harjit Sajjan, the cabinet minister in the Trudeau government, and what he did a few years ago when Canada he was the Minister of Defense at the time, when Canada was withdrawing from Afghanistan during the Taliban takeover. What Sajjan did was he prioritized the evacuation of non-Canadian Sikhs before Canadian people, before Canadian citizens. And he got called out on that last week, and Sajjan came out in front of the microphones, had the nerve to say, this is racism at its best. If I wasn't wearing a turban, you wouldn't be talking about this right now, if you can believe it. So here's what Spectre says. Harjit Sajjan, Canada's Minister of Defense during the fall of Kabul in August of 2021, had a lot on his hands as the deadline for airlifting people out of Afghanistan at the end of that month rapidly approached. His primary duty and obligation, as he said in a statement last Thursday, was to Canadians and those with strong ties to Canada. In other words, Afghans who had worked for the Canadian Embassy, the armed forces, or for journalists, often as translators and fixers. By August 26th, when the last Canadian Armed Forces flight took off from the besieged Hamid Karzai Airport, Canada had airlifted about 3,700 people out of the grasp of the surrounding Taliban forces. They included Canadian citizens and permanent residents, citizens of allied countries, Afghan nationals who worked for Canada, and other vulnerable Afghans. In the chaos, Canada left behind 1,250 Canadian citizens and permanent residents and their family members. Hundreds more Afghans who assisted the Canadian Army were left stranded. And yet in the final days of the airlift, Mr. Sajjan instructed the Canadian forces to mount a rescue operation for about 225 Afghan Sikhs, hoping to get on one of Canada's planes. Mr. Sajjan insists he didn't order the military to shift its priority from rescuing Canadians. Afghan interpreters and others who aided Canada during the 12 long years of the war in Afghanistan to rescuing a specific group of vulnerable Afghan nationals with no connection to Canada, but his explanation is beyond flimsy. The principle of civilian control means the government sets policy and priorities for Canada's armed forces. You know, mandating tampons in the men's room, that kind of thing. It's absurd to think that an instruction from the minister to the military would be taken for anything other than an order. Lest there be any doubt, Chief of Defense Staff Wayne Eyre told the Canadian press on Friday the forces were following legal orders. The upshot, according to military sources who were in Ottawa and Kabul at the time, was that the resources should have gone into getting priority targets to safety before the last Canadian plane left Kabul, but were shifted to a complex mission of lower importance, thrusting Canadian soldiers further into a turbulent and dangerous situation. Among other things, it meant there were fewer Canadian soldiers available to screen people awaiting the last flights out of Kabul. There was such furious anger that last 24 hours were solely dedicated to getting the Sikhs out, one source, a special forces officer, told the Globe. Mr. Sajjan, who is now the emergency preparedness minister, believe it or not, has vehemently defended his actions. He says that getting vulnerable groups, women, religious minorities, LGBTQ people out of Kabul was a priority for Canada. He also says it was a particular policy of the government to help Afghan Sikhs and Hindus thanks to its partnership with an Alberta-based non-government organization, the Manmeet Singh Bhullar Foundation. That NGO identified the 225 Afghan Sikhs and gave their names to Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada officials in order to facilitate their travel to Canada. Mr. Sajjan, in his words, then provided direction to the CAF through the appropriate chain of command to assist the group of Afghan Sikhs. As the chaos at the Kabul airport intensified, he relayed messages from the NGO to the military about the Sikhs' location and status. Commanders on the ground sent soldiers to meet them and escort them into the airport, but the group lost its nerve and left before their rescuers could arrive. Mr. Sajjan, who, by the way, is Sikh, says he did not direct the Canadian Armed Forces to prioritize Sikhs above others. That's a convenient misinterpretation, he said. Equally convenient is his accusation that racism underpins criticism of his actions. To be clear, Mr. Sajjan is not the victim here. The victims are those left behind in Afghanistan in the hands of the murderous Taliban regime. The Bloc Québécois says it will propose hearings on Mr. Sajjan's actions when the Commons resumes sitting in September. Hearings could be helpful in clearing away Mr. Sajjan's prevarications. Hang on a second. I need some water. My lips are sticking together. That's better. Mr. Sajjan's prevarications, but a few things are already crystal clear. Mr. Sajjan's actions hampered efforts to evacuate Canadians and people who risked their lives to help Canada and who should have come before anyone else. It was his mission to get those people to safety. He compromised that mission. Is he a traitor? Is what he did an act of treason? It does not quite measure up to the definition in our code of justice. But it's certainly something. Negligence? We need better laws, man. We need better definition of our laws. They're open to such mass and this is intentional, but they're open to such wide interpretation that they could mean anything. And they can be applied in so many different ways. Hate speech, for example, right? I know I have told you guys about the Celtic Canuck before, but I'm going to tell you again, I love the Celtic Canuck. I think she's hilarious. Her biggest platform is YouTube. She doesn't go too far to get herself censored. But she does play some interesting clips and has some interesting commentary. Now, I've spoken to the Celtic Canuck once or twice on Twitter. And she claims she's just an old lady, concerned Canadian citizen. I say she's a professional writer, maybe even a professional voiceover artist, because she's really good. Maybe even a professional producer, because the videos she puts together are very good also. Anyway, here is a great piece about how Justin Trudeau is being hounded out of the prime ministership by members of his own party. Let's watch.
A new call for Trudeau to resign from one of his own MPs. The email obtained by CBC News sent to the entire Liberal caucus.
CBC News has obtained an email sent by Liberal MP Wayne Long to the entire caucus. He writes, "For the future of our party and for the good of our country, we need new leadership and a new direction."
Well, the Prime Minister is saying that he will stay on as Liberal leader. That's despite some calls from within the party for him to step down.
Well, we knew it was coming. In fact, it really should have come a while ago. But accountability has never been a rush job where the Liberals are concerned. So they spent the last few years letting this guy drag the entire country and party down with them. And not until they're at a point where they may well end up in third place in the election do any of them grow nuts enough to speak out about it. And it's worth taking a second to look at that. what it would take to perform so badly that you not only lose, but lose so drastically that you can't even garner enough support from the people to be named the official opposition. That's got to hurt. And it does, and they're feeling it. But because no one had the guts to say it, they did what all cowards do, and all piled on at once and gave Trudeau a proverbial circle beating in the parking lot by all expressing discontent at the same time, where none were brave enough to do it individually.
We need new leadership and a new direction. The voters have spoken loud and clear. They want change. I agree. And then there's this.
I heard him on more than one occasion say that there is a campaign to push the Prime Minister out the door.
This freelance columnist for the Toronto Star says he overheard Trudeau's Environment Minister making phone calls to Liberals while waiting for a train, discussing the internal unhappiness surrounding Trudeau. If we're not trying to address it, it will fester, Stephen Guilbeault reportedly said, and it makes it more difficult for the boss to stay. The last thing we should do is ignore this.
And as soon as the others saw the kicking happening, they were right there to get in on the action.
Former Environment Minister first told CBC News she believes it's time for him to go. It's time for new ideas, new energy, and a new leader. There's too much at stake in this election, especially on the economy and the climate, Catherine McKenna said in a statement. This pollster says that grumbling may only grow.
I think we expected a close race in Toronto Centre, but losing it is a symbol of how far I think the Liberal Party and Mr. Trudeau in particular has fallen.
This is, as you say, the first time we've had from within the Liberal caucus an expression of the idea that the Prime Minister needs to go.
A bit too eagerly, if you ask me, which might suggest they've been dying to get stuck in for a while now, but were too lacking in courage to present any real opposition to his actions, which says as much about them as it does him and the very structure of that party. Either way, Trudeau is taking a beating from his own side.
This sort of breaks the dam, and it, to mix our metaphors, it sort of snowballs after this, right? I think that you've already seen last night or this morning Catherine McKenna's statement suggesting that she believes the Prime Minister should leave. It's not so much one of these.
So I'm going to stop it for just a second here. Like, do you guys ever watch those political panels on CTV or CBC? Aside from Vashi Capellos, who's on CTV, I like Vashi Capellos. She asks some very difficult questions and she sticks to it. She makes them answer. She's about the only one. But all of those pundits they bring on, like I sit and watch it just out of fascination. It's the way I watched Beavis and Butthead. Oh, and by the way, I'm not sure if you've seen, but there's a great SNL clip involving Beavis and Butthead that's flying around social media right now. Who's that Canadian actor? Ryan. He plays Beavis. Ryan Gosling. It's funny. And it's funny because the cast starts cracking up in the skit. Anyway, back on point. I watch these Canadian political panels occasionally on the CBC or CTV. I watch them like I used to watch Beavis and Butthead, kind of like, are these guys for real? Like, what world do they exist in? It's amazing to me, some of the stuff that comes out of their mouths. And I understand they've got Torontoitis and they think that the world revolves around where they live. And it's difficult to be able to project the entire mood of the country if you only live in one place, the center of the universe. But that's why you've got to go out and you've got to get panelists from other cities, not just Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, and that's all they do. So we sit and we watch these people, professors, academics, experts, who tell us how it really is in politics. They don't know. They might know how it was 30 years ago. But anyway, these people are useless. Like this guy on your screen right now. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I worked for an MP backbencher once, 10 years ago. I got the vibe. I understand. BS. But the CBC can get him and call him an expert. So they put him on. Anyway, let's get back to the Celtic Canucks piece here on getting rid of Justin Trudeau.
It's the idea that after one has come out, another follows and another and another. and soon you're dealing with a pretty sizable number of people.
Yeah, and these aren't Chrétien-era Liberals, they aren't Martin-era Liberals or BC Liberals like Christy Clark saying it, who many people say is now a Conservative. These are current elected Liberals inside the caucus, and whether they're running again or not, they're part of the governing team.
Calls for him to step down are no longer whispered sources, but out and proud dissenters calling for Trudeau to resign as soon as possible before the flaming pitchforks show up in the town square. Because the citizenry are becoming that unhappy with the current state of affairs. And a sacrifice must be made to appease the masses. Only that isn't going to work, is it?
That stunning by-election loss continues to rock the Liberal government this week as a growing number of Liberal MPs say the Prime Minister needs to meet with caucus after Conservatives flipped the Liberal stronghold of Toronto St. Paul's. Behind the scenes, we heard from MPs who say Trudeau needs to answer questions arising from that shocking upset.
Okay. If you guys want to see all of it, because I've still got a few more stories to get in before we go to the extension on shadowdavis.com, including that one about this lesbian couple that was beaten up by a group of men in Halifax. I want to get to that one. So we're going to go a little long on social tonight, but we do have a lot of stuff for you guys on the extension on shadowdavis.com tonight. And follow the Celtic Canuck on YouTube, please. She puts out a video. She's very irregular with it. She puts them out whenever. But when she does, it's usually worth the 10 to 12 minutes because she puts them together so well, and her commentary is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. From Rebel News, shocking! Little clickbait for you there. Rebel News is so very good at that, aren't they? Bonnie Henry pushed COVID jabs on Canadian after BC CDC withheld vaccine injury data. What? No, they wouldn't do that, would they? Really? Okay, look, I'm going to ask you guys another question here before I get to this story. I meant to ask you at the beginning of the show, but then I didn't. So I'm asking now. If I was able to bring, because I'm really hepped up about this big conference we had in Beausejour about a week and a half ago, and thank you to Ken Drysdale and Rosalie Drysdale and Manitoba Stronger Together for putting it on, because it was absolutely fantastic, and I believe we need more things like this. So, if I were to bring a big pharma expert, somebody who has been speaking out extensively over these past 4 years, and maybe a couple of doctors, bring them together and have a panel. Have the three of them, let's say there's three of them, have them do half hour each in terms of a presentation, and then I host a panel after. Would you guys come to something like that if we came to your city or within 3 or 4 hours of where you live? And what would you pay to see something like that? And I'm talking about realistically here, because it takes a lot of money to put something like that together, including bringing the people together and then maybe even paying them a fee, right? This is not something I want to make money on. Don't get me wrong. This is something I want to bring to you because I believe it is so very important that people know this stuff. And if we can bring experts like that together, then your job would be to bring somebody who still doesn't believe that these things are dangerous and have been causing all kinds of problems in people for the past 3 years. So if they hear a panel of experts talking about it, they might just finally wake up. And that's what our job is, to wake people up, right? Slowly but surely, sometimes one at a time, sometimes we get them hundreds at a time. But I'm going to read the comments later. I'm not going to put them on right now because there's too many. I can see them coming. And by the way, I would not be able to live stream that unless I charged for it. Because if I live streamed it, that means you might say, well, I could just watch it online. I don't have to pay to go see it. Right? And I can't put a blackout on it either for certain regions like they used to with football games. CFL football game blacked out because we didn't sell out the stadium. What I could do is maybe record it and then put it up on the website a couple of days later at a minimal fee, just to make sure we got our money back for putting this on. Anyway, guys, please let me know in the comments on whatever platform you're watching on right now, if you would come and see something like that, how many tickets you would buy, how much you would pay for it. All right? And I will go ahead and read the comments later on, and I'll try to like each one of them. Because this kind of crap is still going on, still in British Columbia. Unannounced to Canadians, newly released FOIA documents reveal COVID-19 vaccines caused 16 times more adverse events and 14 times more hospitalizations compared to flu shots in BC. Drea Humphrey made this report, and she says in today's report, I will walk you through insider discussions and health data that appear to expose the BC Centre for Disease Control, which works hand-in-hand with Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry, for manipulating COVID-19 vaccine adverse event statistics to hide how dangerous these injections really were. Canadian immunologist and vaccinologist Dr. Byram Bridle recently released a damning summary of the shocking information he obtained from a 1,315-page report, which was contained within a response to an access to information request filed by a British Columbia law firm. The public deserves to know how the BC Centre for Disease Control mishandled and hid important vaccine safety data, Dr. Byram Bridle wrote in his summary. Notice how I have to say Dr. Byram Bridle for the AI algorithm right now. Internal BC CDC data charts of adverse events following immunizations from December 20th, 2020 until March 15th, 2021 show the Public Health Agency was aware these shots caused 15.7 times more serious AEFIs and 13.6 times more hospitalizations than what historically occurred with flu shots. These statistics were never made public, preventing them from making an informed decision about receiving these things. Instead, email discussions among BC CDC staff show how data was reworked before the public was given these AEFI statistics, claiming only 26 serious adverse reactions linked to COVID shots had occurred. So if you want to see this whole report, go check out Drea Humphrey's report on rebelnews.com, or you can find it on YouTube, I suppose, or Rumble, any of their platforms. I said last night that Winnipeg would probably be one of the last cities to become a 15-minute city because it's always been run so very badly. It's always like 15 to 20 years behind all of the modernized cities like Calgary and Edmonton and Vancouver. It is. And if you don't live in Winnipeg, you've never been to Winnipeg, you live in Calgary or Edmonton or something, and you think you've got it bad there, come to Winnipeg for a couple of weeks. Just try and drive on these roads here. Try and figure out where you're going. You'll see. But Winnipeg Council approves zoning changes in exchange for millions in federal housing funding. This story comes from taxpayer-funded corporate media CBC. Amended motion put forward by the mayor passes 13-3. Yes, we have 16 councillors in Winnipeg. It's ridiculous. The city's not quite 1 million people yet. Winnipeg City Council approved a set of major zoning changes last week in order to access millions in federal housing money. Although Mayor Scott Gillingham brought forward an amended proposal that sought to clarify limits that would be placed on the ability of property owners to build fourplexes and four-story buildings, councillors who oppose the changes say there are more questions than answers. There's only 3 of them, so it doesn't even matter. What matters is the city of Winnipeg is now going to do the bidding of the federal government in exchange for money. And the federal government, as we know, wants these 15-minute cities, as per their instructions from the World Economic Forum, as per their instructions from BlackRock, as per their instructions from the 300 families, the 13 families, and so on. To Quebec, former Quebec lawyer has filed a class action against dozens of politicians and ministers in their private capacity over safe and effective messaging about these COVID-19 shots. Glorianne Blaise, who I am trying to get on the show here, a former Quebec lawyer with more than 20 years of experience and expertise in civil liability and medical malpractice, holds a graduate degree specializing in health law and policies from Sherbrooke University. She was disbarred after speaking out about these shots and advocating for her clients. She was disbarred. Unbelievable. In a phone interview with the Canadian Independent, Blaze said she began expressing concerns on social media in the spring of 2021 about the safety and effectiveness, blah, blah, blah. In October of 2021, Blaze said she took on an appeal case for a father who opposed his ex-wife vaccinating their children with this stuff, a decision that was ultimately ruled in favor of the mother in the lower courts. Blaze claims the appeals court refused to hear the case, and shortly thereafter, she was disbarred. Blaze alleges that her outspokenness on social media and her involvement in the father's appeal case is what ultimately led her to disbarment. So yeah, we're going to have to get her on the show. Guys, I've got so many calls out to so many potential guests. Okay, and they're all coming on. It's just a matter of scheduling it, and summertime, everybody's in summer mode, everybody's making plans to travel and blah, blah, blah. But we'll make it happen. Don't worry, it's going to happen. This story from CTV, left-wing corporate media, once again. I'm terrified to go downtown again. Halifax. Woman recovering after altercation with group of men who allegedly made homophobic slurs. Celebration birthday turned into a nightmare for a same-sex couple in downtown Halifax on Saturday after they got into a violent altercation with a group of men. There's something missing from that sentence. Just a group of men. A group of men walking on the other direction made a comment to me, said Emma McLean. My girlfriend, Tori, said, "Hey, that's my girlfriend." McLean said this provoked the group, which led them to taunt her girlfriend and make homophobic slurs. They continued walking, and then Tori followed them to basically verbally say, "Hey, that's not okay." However, from there, she said it escalated. I see Tori being pushed on the stairs right in front of the BMO Center, and if they're cement stairs, she's on her back. That's when all the men started punching and kicking her, said McLean. McLean said she shouted for them to stop, but they ignored her, which is when she got involved. The fight or flight came in. I jumped on one of their backs, put him in a chokehold, basically trying to restrain him. Police patrolling the area were alerted by a bystander. However, by that time, the altercation had ended. McLean said officers then approached her and her girlfriend and told them that they did speak with someone involved in the incident. The officer said that one person stuck around to give their ID and claimed that we attacked them. He said the other people were not cooperative in giving their identification. McLean said both suffered injuries. Her girlfriend has bruises on her arm and under her eye. As for McLean, she also has a bruise under her eye, a chipped tooth, and a broken nose. So she goes on to explain the fight, but she, at least in this story on CTV, left-wing corporate media, does not describe the group of men. So we move to LBC here, leading Britain's conversation. We have to go all the way to Britain for this Canadian story. And the story says, mob of Middle Eastern men brutally beat lesbian couple out celebrating a birthday. I love that they're more blunt than the left-wing corporate media in Canada. And there is terrifying footage of this, by the way. But now we know it was a group of Middle Eastern men. And the footage isn't that great, but here it is just the same. Let's try this one instead here.
What are we doing?
Hi, sir. Yeah, can I go look? Let me. Oh. What are we doing?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to click out of this.
What are we doing?
I'm going to click out of this, And I'm going to get to the next video. It's going to start automatically because it's on Instagram. I'm going to, and we're going to get into some gays against grooming stuff. There's an organization in Canada. It's not gays against groomers. It's gays against grooming. And we're going to have a couple of representatives from that organization join the show in the next couple of nights as well. I'm going to have to turn up the video, but this is what it's like trying, and so many people, bless their hearts. So many people, they try to say, you know, I just want to have a reasonable, fair, open, honest conversation so that we can come together and we can express our views to each other and maybe, just maybe, we can find some common ground. Okay, all right. And that's fair, you know, that's absolutely fair as liberal-minded people. And when I say liberal, I'm talking about classical liberal, those open to both sides, those who are encouraged by fun, yet aggressive, and reasonable debate. But when we run into people like this, it becomes a problem. Let's see here what this video is actually, it's funny and alarming at the same time. All right, so I'm going to turn the video up. So this woman here, this purple hair, standing on the gay pride walk there, there's somebody filming her, or they, or whatever, obviously with their phone. And she says, "This is the gayborhood. You're not welcome here." Watch what happens next.
And you are not welcome.
That's why I need to be here. You need Jesus, ma'am. He can save you. He can give you a new heart. God can give you a new heart so that you love what God loves. No, that's irrational.
This is the gayborhood, and you are not welcome.
That's why I need to be here.
I don't think that any of us need to see any more of that. However, I do have more available for you in the extension on shadowdavis.com, which we'll be going to in just a couple of minutes. For those of you who are not members of the All Access, oh, and by the way, mugs have been ordered. Shadow at Night live stream mugs have been ordered, and I'm going to start giving them away, not to all members, all access members, because I can't, but we're going to do a contest back there on the website. You, if you're an all access member, might be winning a Shadow at Night live stream coffee mug in either black or white. Coming soon to an extension near you. The extension starts in 2 minutes for all access members on shadowdavis.com. If you're not an all access member, I still love you, man. I appreciate you, and I will catch you tomorrow night on the show, 8 o'clock Central. Bye for now. All access, I will see you in 2 minutes.